I think Tim's theory of interdimensional beings is probably more along the lines of what's going on with that. But we got to look into these things.
When he brought up how the Shadow Man's doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Trapped in this moment. What if you have these two folds of space-time, and imagine on this sheet of fabric you've got from 1980 to 2024, and then you've got this other ripple that is, let's just say, I don't know, 1964, and the ripple is moving across the line.
Yep.
So as you move forward in time, that other fabric dimension is a single moment.
Yep.
The whole sheet of time moving. So you're actually just witnessing the same time, and you're both moving through time. Like, you know what I mean?
And what if this has something to do with us actually being in a black hole already? You know, do you have that video I sent you of the black hole simulation? I don't know if I sent it. There's a recent simulation of a black hole, because people are talking about how the sun might actually be a black hole now. It's a new theory in science.
Ian was talking about that.
Yeah. Who knows? You know, they were saying the center of the universe is a black hole. Now they're saying, you know, there's black holes just everywhere you look. You can't see them.
I don't know exactly about that theory. I know that there's white hole theory.
What's this one?
The other side of a black hole.
Oh, jeez.
So the idea being that the Big Bang was, we assume the Big Bang because we're seeing everything expand, like the universe is expanding. But what if what's actually happened is that a hole was punched through space-time and it's just inflating like a balloon?
I know. This is why I think about CERN all the time, because they're afraid that it's creating other black holes at the bottom of the Earth. Well, it technically,
but they just disintegrate.
Technically, they're creating microscopic black holes beneath the border of Switzerland and France. But the people at CERN won the lawsuit when the judge said these black holes are actually fine.
So when making a video game, if I was gonna make, you ever play a video game, like you ever play Galaga?
No.
Do you know what it is?
Nope. I haven't played anything since like Mario.
Yeah, Galaga's before Mario.
Okay, so I missed it.
little spaceship on the bottom of the screen.
Okay.
And there's little aliens that come down.
Yeah.
And you fire missiles at them.
Yeah. I have played something like that. If not,
like arcade game.
When I would make video games, and I don't know if this is true for every programmer, you have your display, your field of view. Outside of it, I would store objects that don't move.
Right.
And so I could easily move them in when I'm developing. And so what people found is sometimes when you're playing a first-person shooter, if you put in a cheat code for no clipping, being able to move through walls, you might leave the physical space of the game that you're supposed to be in. And once you're outside of it, you can see weird things just outside the room.
Right.
But if I was making a game like Galaga, where you have like a spaceship moving up and down or left and right, what I would do is you create a placeholder object that has a movement function, and then you create objects at this object's coordinates.
Right.
So imagine if outside, you know, those in the video game, Mario, for instance, he can't come outside his world.
Right.
His track is the track he's on.
Yep.
If he goes too low, he dies.
Yep.
If he runs out of time, he dies.
Right.
If he gets touched, he dies. It's weird.
Yeah.
But outside of the field of view, perhaps you could call it another dimension, are objects you can't see, spawning and disappearing and blinking in and out of existence. I wonder if our reality is like that. We can only function within these dimensions, and then ghosts or extra-dimensional beings are basically in like this null space.
Well, like dreams.
Well, it could be one part of it.
Yeah.
But I think that goes along with what you're saying about Christopher Columbus, you know, and the way the Indians
You can't
saw.
see it.
They can't see it. Or was it Kevin, our last caller, saying like his sister was rejecting whatever he was seeing, you know, but he could see it. Or your dream, you have a dream, like that was talking about the fire that lady dreamt about. Yeah. She has something that allows her to see through the facade of reality, you know. And there's probably, I think when you talked about it, I think there's a painting by Michelangelo where demons are carrying him. And I feel like that's partly how society actually might look.
I worry about so many people that you know, they listen to this Joe Rogan guy, and I tell you, he's
what's that guy's deal?
He's a bad influence. I'll tell you why. He's actually a really good influence, but I worry that when he talks about DMT in such a positive way, if it is something that allows you to perceive the veil between worlds or whatever it is, weak, stupid people, and I mean that with all due respect, but low functioning individuals who take DMT are going to get whisked away by demons. Yeah. Or darkness or dark entities or whatever it is. Yeah, I've unfortunately spent a long time messing around with certain substances like that, and I don't know. You know, I spent
a lot of time in the dark. And I've seen other people not leave that dark after trespassing into that area. And there's other drugs that are way worse, you know.
I'll tell you, these are all the stories I've told on Tim Kessler before, but you know, I'll tell this one here. That's relevant. I'll give a quick version of it.
Yeah.
I knew these two guys who were skateboarders. They were Christians. They never preached Christianity while they were skateboarding, but they had, you know, I guess you'd call it paraphernalia, either wearing a cross for obvious reasons or having an earring.
Right.
They had, I was hanging out with one of the guys one day and I asked him, you know, because there was a controversy. The haters were claiming they were preaching and they weren't. And it was just like, leave the guys alone. Let them be Christian, whatever. They're skateboarders. We're having a good time. And I asked this one guy, he's like a punk rock dude, skin tight, crazy hair, all that, how he became Christian. I was like, were you always like, you grew up Christian? He's like, no. He said that a few years before he was a drug addict. He was partying, drinking, doing any drug you can think of, hooking up with women at random and just did not care about anything. Right. And he was in a bad place. One day he said he was in the woods and they were partying. Goes to sleep, did a bunch of drugs. He did a bunch of drugs, got drunk, goes to sleep, wakes up. He walks away from his group, take a leak. As he's taking a leak, he hears a booming voice from within his chest saying, "Why are you doing this?" And he instantly has an adrenaline rush. He freaks out. He's like, what's happening? And the voice asks him again, "Why are you doing this?" And he said to himself, I don't know. And then it told him, stop. He immediately started looking for answers to understand this experience he had. And he found Christianity. And they explained to him, you had a divine intervention. Right. I mean, this is something, you know, it took you going to a really dark place. Some people only wish they could get it, but some people don't need it.
Yep.
Yeah.
He told me, he's like, I don't expect you to believe me. No one believes me. But it happened, and here I am. And since he found Christianity, his life had been cleaned up.
Yep.
He was working at a business. He had his own place. He was clean, sober. He had friends. Like, his life got good. And I was like, I believe you. I'm not saying it was God. I don't know. I'm just saying I believe you when you tell me that happened to you.
Right.
That's all you know.
Yeah.
I don't think you're lying to make this story up. You got clean.
Exactly. Who knows any better? I mean, it was my exposure to absolute evil that made me realize after years of atheism, there's got to be, in this world, there's a balance of good and evil, death and rebirth. And that was, in my brain, it was like, well, there's got to be an ultimate good then. Because it can't just be evil.
There is evil too.
And there is absolute evil.
When I was younger, I didn't think so.
Yeah.
I thought it was just, I remember being like 18 and thinking, no, it's not good and evil. It's conflicted interest and different worldviews.
Right.
And now I'm older and I'm like, there is evil.
It's so simple as just that.
Yeah.
It's good versus evil. I mean, there's obviously a lot of other things going on, but it boils down to that. And I think a lot of the reason people don't believe in that anymore is because it's just become cliche. Right. They watered down the idea of good and evil, but it's just that.
But I do wonder if like our political predicament is that it's becoming we're at the apex of the wave where good and evil flattens out into the small things of life, and there's smaller evil actions building up, and now we're at the point where there's tremendous good and tremendous evil crashing like a wave.
I think that's the cycle of human nature.
Yeah.
And that's what always happens. That's why we've seen world wars, crazy. I mean, look, the things that this country's gone through, just here, the Civil War, all these things, like we've experienced this wave where it ebbs and flows. And right now, I do think it's heading up.
Have you ever watched that documentary, What the Bleep Do We Know? Very popular in the Zeitgeist era. Zeitgeist, Loose Change, these viral videos.
Okay.
And this is one that popularized the double slit experiment.
Yep.
Where like your observation of reality can impact reality.
Right.
In it, they have this explanation of higher and lesser dimensional entities. And the narrator just explained something called flatland. He said, imagine there are beings that live in a two-dimensional plane. They only know left, right, forward, and backward. They have no concept of up and down. Those are foreign words to them. And so a three-dimensional being looking down above them exists in a dimension that they can't comprehend. Yep. And he shows this little Pac-Man looking guy, and he says, hello there. And the little thing says, what? Where is this sound coming from? The sound is coming from within my body. Because to the little flat circle, the sound is going straight down into it and emanating from within its core, out of its being. Yep. And it can't comprehend the direction from which the sound is coming. So I saw that before this guy told me about what he said, and I'm like, he was being spoken to from a higher plane, whatever that is.
Like lightning hitting him. Yeah, it's wild. And the other thing with the political nature that we're in terms of, I see it as a cult of nihilism, is that language has died. So now we're left without any reference points, shared reference points in terms of describing our own reality, which is why reality is dissolving. which is making it worse, which is why I think the spike in insanity is happening
Well,
across
social
the
media,
board.
too.
Social media too accelerates it.
If reality really is affected by observation, then does worldview build upon reality?
Yes.
And if that's true, then does that mean that there was a point at which magic existed?
Yeah.
Exorcisms, magic, spirituality, conjuration, manifestation were normal, perceived, and the worldview of people, and so the world was that way. But as the collective worldview began to shift away or change, it also changed the fabric of reality, breaking our ability to connect with that kind of.
That's why I think materialism is also the highest form of modern religion now. Everyone's so connected to their things that they forget that world.
And so what if the real reason the Malthusians want to depopulate the planet is because too many people have rejected the power of being and perception, locking reality into the state. And these cult-like, whether they believe it or not, powerful individuals, they believe that if we can reduce the population, we can alter the perspective of individuals to the point where reality itself will bend.
I believe we're under the war of reality. That's the biggest, other than good and evil, is the war of reality. And you can look back at things of Mao in China during the Cultural Revolution, destroying art and language.
Yeah.
Because he's like, if I can destroy their culture and their history and their actual sense of perception, I got them. I own them.
But in a more metaphysical sense, if there's one human being in existence, and let's say that reality is shaped by the observation of being, this one person's observations and expectations have made reality what it is. If you add another person, both of their observations are now competing for what really is. And whoever has the dominant willpower will manifest the version of reality. Now you have 8 billion people, all of their interests, worldviews, and observations competing with each other, solidifying reality as a block that cannot be changed any longer.
Yeah.
Which is why we can look at the same piece of evidence from you and someone else and walk away with totally different interpretations. It's like art. It's like modern. It's like reality's modern art now. It's deconstructed.
But I mean to the extent that if everyone on the planet believed you could manifest lightning from your hand, then they could.
It's like hive mind.
Yeah, like alchemy. Like they used to believe in alchemy.
Like
and
maybe
we still do.
Maybe those things actually existed.
Yeah.
It's just that with reality being a derivative of observation,
I believe that.
people do not believe it's possible, so they've locked it out of reality.
I believe that. Because I think we're too locked to modern materialism.
Yeah.
And it's divorced us from the magic.
But I'm not saying I know. I'm just saying what if.
Well, I think it's a good what if.